Hello, lovelies. It's me again. I had a clip from a really good, really true to life story, which is the Final Fantasy VII story. And they made this little side movie called Advent Children. And this is exactly how evil operates. And I enjoy just openly talking about it because they often use children. They'll victimize others and then hide behind their children or other people's children, always using children, and yet doing evil. And again, I guess this is my little part three of the review of the Fellowship Club in Aurora, Colorado. And I give it a 1 out of 5 star review because, yeah, I get raped by children into my adulthood, and that's not even the worst stuff that I experience. But I enjoy talking about it because I need to head things off at the pass. I need to head things off at the pass. I don't want to empower evil. I want to disempower it. So I see they would attack Jesus if Jesus ever showed up because evil would do these things to Jesus. And I really hope Mel Gibson, someone could get this, one of your good Freemasons or whatever the fuck, Illuminati, get this over to Mel Gibson because if he is going to make a sequel to Passion of the Christ, this is exactly one of the tactics that they would employ. But anyway, I wanted to show you a clip from this movie called Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, and here we go. So we got Cloud, the protagonist of the, film. And here are the villains, and what did they do? Oh, Cloud's coming for them, so you gotta hide behind a bunch of possessed children now. And that is exactly what evil does. Again, me asking children to leave the room, not leave entirely, go wander off in the streets, children. Just leave the room while I talk about some hardcore stuff. The other day, someone was talking about cutting their fucking throats and like literally describing how their blood is going to be spewing from their neck. I would think that would be an appropriate time, before talking about that, to just ask the children to leave while you talk about something hardcore. So there wasn't children there at that particular meetup. They do have this potluck that I happened to catch at the end of the month, where they did bring their children and they didn't have themselves feel themselves up around me and touching their other special spots, which is something that happens. It's something that happens. And so I talk about it because these things are fucking done. And people do these things, and I'm not going to arm evil, but I'm going to disarm it. And the only way I could disarm it is by being my authentic, truthful self. I even, like how they make mass shooters. And that last time when I was in Colorado Springs protesting a sex club that kicked me out of it because they get all sorts of places to reject me, just like an endless reject. And so I see how you would treat Jesus. You'd just be totally misled into attacking those who actually are coming to help, if there are any light people amongst this group. I see there are lots of demons and evil amongst the Fellowship Club in Aurora, Colorado. As I've said, previously, evil has infected and infested every aspect of life. And if you think you're doing good for children, like child prostitution services, and they send their drugged out people towards your finer females and finer males and try to get them hooked on drugs. And then they really like to mate. So they mate usually and get your some of your people to get hooked on drugs, and then they get the child protective services, and it all looks legit. Like it's kind of random. Oh, it's just life and everything. But really, it's strategy, and it's 100% intentional. And that last time that they tried, poisoning me for a full year with Roundup, making my feet numb, making me shit blood, having sinus issues, and having everyone deny it around me. Was like the fourth or fifth time they tried making me a mass shooter, and it's nothing but people doing evil ass things to me. And it's not to like I'm some great victim and blah blah blah, because I'm not trying to manifest that shit, but I surely got to talk about it, and I got to talk about these tactics, and how extreme they do. And they do this gang stalking shit to your children too, and it's all just like this Epstein file shit, that's coming out. And they're obviously working for the child fuckers, like Pam Bondi. It looks like she's working for the child fuckers. The DOJ, releases the list of victims and hush hush about the fucking perpetrators. Oops. That looked like it was 100% intentional. And then Pam Bondi going off, just going on, doing her, you sound crazy, you look at the Dow, blah, 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 blah. That's what she was put there for, to protect the child fuckers. Anyway, and then the child protectors get so easily manipulated. It reminds me of that, Spaceballs scene, where Rick Ramirez or whatever was like, evil or good is dumb. Yeah, good, could be very easily manipulated by evil. If I don't address these things, you don't allow me to talk about some of the extreme shit that I've been through while hiding behind children and everything, like in this fucking video here, and lots of other movies and shows where evil hides behind children, then it seems to me like you're working for evil. That's just that. And I'm sure many of these places operate like that. And I try to participate. I try to help out. And what would they do to Jesus? They would get him, to whatever possible to not help out, because I have the urge to help out. So you get me to not help out, and that's like a win for evil. Again, like, I'm been doing this wanting to run for president thing, not knowing that I'm groomed and mind controlled, but I still have that light side and that Jesus side in me. They bit me with the Satan bug and everything, so, and that will come out, I'll say it at the end of this little bit here. I'm like, yeah, let's like clean up trash in the oceans and take care of our most vulnerable, and, free healthcare and better healthcare and natural healthcare, and just all this good stuff. All this good stuff that the people want. And we don't want to be secretly attacked and mind controlled and blah, blah, blah. And, to stand up against the bankers. Totally what JFK did and, gave his life for. And then I'll be like, yeah, here's the Satan part. But I handled it well. And, I'm like, yeah, well, if Hillary is eating children, then I think it's fair that others eat her. And it's not cruel or unusual. She's done it to a whole lot of other people. Just like, if Bill Gates and Fauci are fucking poisoning people secretly, then, through vaccines, supposedly, then I think it's fair that, they get every single vaccine that they pushed on other people. And we should probably grab it from African countries to make sure it's a pure supply, because they are very racist as well, so, you could almost guarantee that any vaccine sent to Haiti or Africa or any other, predominantly black nation, is the real potent, what I feel is a bioweapon stuff, and that's not cruel or unusual because they did it to so many. That's actual fairness and justice that is talked about a lot. And, and there would be the Satan side coming out right there when I was roofie possessed with a dark being. But I was never really ever that dark because my core is always balance. There's always these ends of the spectrum, people having crazy, insane, subject sex parties. And then there's like the normal sort of sex parties. And then the people that kind of, like stick with the couple, but maybe they sleep around every now and then. And then there's like the people that like abstain, abstinence and celibate totally, and I'm always in the middle of all of these spectrums. No matter what spectrum you pick, I'm like in the middle of it because that's what the temperance magician does. Mercury is balance. And so I'm always seeking a balance so I can never go too far in either direction, which is why I was so fucking successful because they do this to people on a mass scale and I just like to talk about it. So I go to a support group. I'm not really, an alcoholic, but I'm looking for sober people. I thought this was, good, and then, I, essentially get asked to leave while the false righteousness of gotta protect the children bullshit that they constantly pull. You're on dope or whatever. We gotta take your children away so we could fucking fuck them. Because that's what they fucking do in CPS, and everybody's like, fine with it. That's insane to me. That sounds insane to me. Maybe it doesn't to you. Maybe it sounds normal, and that's okay and everything. But me, it just sounds insane. And so, yeah, I talk about aspects and things that are kind of hidden, but also mainstream, which the evil really fucking hates. They hate it when I talk about this shit. They suppress me so well, so far, and that's why, and so suppressing me only fucking aids evil, and brings bad karma down upon you and yours. When you do evil things to Jesus, what do you think? Does that give good karma or does that give bad karma? It's debatable whether I'm a Jesus-like character or not. Fine. But just, doing bad things to Jesus, preventing him from helping out the community in so many ways. So while hiding behind the children, having your children do inappropriate things around me, but I can never talk about it ever, 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 unless you want to psychological warfare me and bring me to a fucking sexual abuse case, which a club or whatever support group, which is not actually the core of my story, which the evil tried to mind control and direct energy weapon me into thinking that is, the major thing about my story, when really it's about possession. And it's something, that needs to be known because, again, in order to address any fucking problem, you got to be self-aware about it. And if you're not self-aware about it, then the problem persists. And so suppressing me, suppressing a Jesus-like character, treating him poorly, hiding behind your children while doing it does not give you good karma. And then you look around your world and you're like, man, everything's burning down around us. I wonder why. Because you take these nice people and twist it and distort into something that they're not and use the grapevine and all your culty shit amongst yourselves to paint a false picture, while having your false righteousness. And I just don't agree with any of that shit. And again, the best thing I could do is openly talk about it, because when you don't talk about it, that only aids evil. And I am not on evil side. No matter how, weird people can make me seem or, spread rumors and act, weird around me. So anyway, apparently me asking children to leave if they are ever brought around me, at these weird meetups when I have to talk about extreme things is super wrong of me. Which, really, if you're reasonable and whatnot, it's not. It's clearly not. But, whatever. Peace the fuck out. You wouldn't even know Jesus if he fucking showed up at one of your fucking meetups. That's how fucking blind and lost you are. Oh, yes. I wanted to add, also, that I call this, at the end of it, Statements by Alex Side story, because she suggested, and she's like the 100th person to suggest it to me over like the past couple decades, to head to an AA meeting, for support and blah, blah, blah. And I did that. I headed it over to an AA meeting, and I'm trying to talk about some of my struggles. Why is it fair that everybody could talk about their struggles and violent shit, but I can't talk about mine? And some of the real things that they do to us targeted individuals is the demeaning name they call us. Why can't I talk about my stuff? Why can't I talk about children raping me into my adulthood and photos likely being taken of me? But I'm passed out, so I have no idea what's happening or who exactly age it is. But, it's very obvious that a lot of the roofie rapes of me throughout the years have been underagers. Because if you can't get me to act out, if you can't get your targets to act out in a negative way, you got to invent the blackmail somehow. And I talk about these things, people trying to make me a mass shooter, all sorts of fucking things. I get into it, but not right now. I'll get into a whole list one of these days of the horrible things that they've been through, that they put me through. And I'm not allowed to talk about any of it, how, they manipulate child protectors, the child fuckers, how they manipulate. And when you reject someone like me, it only looks like you're fucking on the child fucker's side and not on the protectors. But you wear that badge anyway, just like all those motherfuckers that use their stolen valor stories, made up stories. They never served on the front lines. They never led in fucking war or anything. They're flying around or very far away from the actual front lines, but and they're flying around safe and everything, just like this recent douchebag, and it's just a bunch of false idols of your world posing as the heroes, and the actual heroes of your world get targeted and suppressed from the womb. They know they have secret technology that they hide like cowards behind national security constantly to do these things. And, it is a major part of my disclosure. And if people don't allow me to reach enough people, and people like me to reach enough people, then disclosure has not been met. I know they're working on their bullshit disclosure, which is just going to be a show, and that will not meet the terms of disclosure either. As the messenger of the gods, I seem to be. So, yeah, you guys would shit on Jesus constantly. Constantly. Most of you, at least. Maybe some of you won't, But many of you would. And this is how they do it. And me openly talking about how people roofie rape me with their children, then get all sorts of people around me to have their children do inappropriate things around me. I get to talk about that. I didn't think that was some highlight of my story a decade ago, but apparently it is. And it's something that I turned out very well on because it's something, that they recruit people with. Because the demons are always seeking that youth and everything. And that's what they injected into me with Roofie possessing me. And it's not like exorcism where I'm rotating my head 360 degrees and throwing up green fucking blood or whatever the fuck, green vomit. It's nothing like that. It's more subtle. So there was a lot of truth in that movie, but not entirely true. Just like, how they manipulate everything. So, support group my ass. Support group my ass. I guess, you little shit demons over at the fucking Fellowship Club in fucking Aurora, Colorado. Have at it, Hoss. Whatever. I'm going to move on and I'm going to find a support group where I can talk about these things, but I'm not going to be psychologically warfared into all that, sexual abuse stuff. People tried making me a monster, and then I get to get, beat up by people who are angry about being sexually abused. Well, I guess I'm angry about being sexually abused too. and people using that and hiding behind their children with your false righteousness. You're way more fucked up than you fucking realize. And you're so fucked up, you'd fucking attack Jesus if you ever fucking showed up in human form. Like you have for thousands and thousands of years. Because the demonic Zionists do that. They are very manipulative, and this is what they do. They eat and fuck children, and then they'll get you to attack the people that they rape for life. Whether they ended up making them a monster or not, they will invent it. Just like I say, I've been Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson got smeared and he was attempted to be turned into a demon, and all they have is just their bullshit and a lot of fucking real stories of these kids that are now grown up, and they're like, yeah, my parents were pressuring me for the money. Yeah, exactly. You know, he never fucking did anything to you, though, did he? Yeah, exactly. Except when I'm not as, I didn't be a court gesture, and later took his power back like Michael Jackson did. Like, he was already being groomed and everything at 5 years old to be a star. He didn't know better then. And then later he started taking his power back. He's like, oh man, people fucking made me a fucking court gesture and shit. And he started taking his power back. But he had lots of money to back him. I don't. I'm way more suppressed than that, but I also feel that avoiding the court gesture stuff that they tried doing me to as well in my late teens and early 20s, trying to steer me into Hollywood to be some sort of bitch for the fucking deep state, I avoided that trap. But I also lack, the financial resources that Jackson had, so when I say I've been Michael Jackson, that's 100% accurate. And if people find it offensive, well, I find you offensive as the messenger of the gods. All right? Peace the fuck out.